For today's episode, we are going to be making a lot. Good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time you are watching this. Hi, everyone. My name is Brendan. I am the co-owner of the Rustic Tub, small bath and body care company located in the heart of tiny Ontario. Same entry waypoint every single video. I don't think we're stopping that anytime soon, even though I have said we would be stopping it sometime soon, but we're going strong. And for today's video, like that little snippet said, we are actually going right on into a soap making video. And it's not really going to be a specialty soap making video. We are preparing for our spring line. Now, if you are watching this as it comes out early February, whatever this video comes out, you're probably thinking to yourself, isn't it a little bit early to be thinking about spring? Yes and no is the correct answer. So if you are already a soap maker or you are looking at starting out to wanting to be a soap maker, then you should already know that you have to think months in advance of everything that's coming. So you should be 2 months well ahead of any kind of holiday, considering ideas of what you even want to come out with. And spring lines is no different. So for us, we're already thinking about spring, and we're making this video in January. When it airs, dealer's choice, probably late January, early February, whenever you're watching this. But yes, we are already thinking about our spring line because we are dropping it in end of February, honestly, is when we want to drop it, because we want to give people that bright little sunshine of hope where, hey, gardening season is coming up. Flowers are going to be blooming soon. In some provinces, BC, it's already spring at this point. Now, for the most part, I can't remember if I said it or not, we aren't just focusing on one type of soap today. We're actually going to be going into 3 different soaps. So this one isn't a specialty call for anything, but it's more or less a specialty call to what we're somewhat offering in our spring line. And we're focusing more on our florals today. So a lot of the floral fragrances that are going to be coming up and how you can work with it, because there are some tidbits with that one. Before we go into the swing of things, and you're probably looking over here asking yourself what the heck is going on with that, I'll get into that momentarily. I just wanted to touch base with fragrance oils for, especially if you are doing more floral stuff for spring or you're thinking about it. Floral for spring, groundbreaking, I know. However, florals are very popular at this time of year, especially scent-wise. And literally for today, we are coming out with a couple of new ones. One of them is actually an old one we used to do. We just discontinued it for the last year, and we are bringing it back. So we're excited to see how it's going to perform here. So the first one we're going to be doing is our Butterfly Garden one from Fizz Fairy. Honestly, this one just has a nice, sweet scent to it. So we've never worked with this one before. We're excited to give it a shot. So you're going to be testing it along with us for it. There are floral notes in here. And I keep saying floral because when you do a floral fragrance, anything with a flowery scent to it, so a lilac lily, rose, tends to activate your soap in a very weird way. And the best way I describe it is it almost looks like curdled milk for a lot of these fragrances. So we are going to be working with that today, and you might witness some of it if I'm slow enough to show it, or depending how well it goes. Now, Butterfly Garden, their middle note for that one is floral itself. So it is the epitome of what you would expect it to be. And we are using that one with our little mat today. So like I said, very soon we're diving into this. Our other one that we're using is our Rose Garden and our Peppermint. And that is from Voyager. We just love the mixture of this one that we had. We honestly don't know why we didn't feature it last year when it was such a great seller when we were out west. So we're excited to bring this one back. And then the final one, it was actually one of our main line soaps / bath bombs and body care, but we are switching it to our spring seasonal one. And it is the Fizz Fairy Baja Cactus Blossom. It is a Bath and Body Works dupe. Smells exactly like it. It is one of our hot sellers. But we decided that it is more of a springtime scent, so it's going to have its own little feature for that. Now, normally, I would show you the parts of this video where we dive into our ingredients. However, we are just using our standard ingredient that we use for all of our soaps, so I wanted to focus more on what's going to be happening in it rather than the ingredients. We have it located everywhere. If you need to catch up on it or touch base with it, we might get a little zesty and throw in like a rose clay or something along the lines. Undecided yet. But what is going to be a part of this is we are using a brand new item from Winston and Walter that July did come out with. So we're using the standard soap molds. We use the 7.5 pound tall and skinny molds from July. Honestly, we love them. The best thing about them is the top has little ruler lines on it, and this really helped me out to trace what I needed. So I'm going to show you what this is right now. So newly released, Winston and Walter came out with these silicone mats. So these have little bees on it. They have little honeycomb patterns as well. And you can put them in your soap liners just to create the indents in your soap. You can create special designs. So we're going to be playing with this today for our butterfly garden one. I know it has bee imprints on it, but honestly, it's going to be the same because I plan on painting these little honeycombs like little different flowers. If it works, I don't know. That's what we're going to be focusing on later on. But what I did was I did measure our soap loaf, and thank God for these little ridges right here. I followed them as my little guidelines for it. So I just traced out where I needed to cut, and I'm going to place it at the bottom. I'm not going to put it at the top because I have a fear that if the soap batter is light and a little bit runny, this will sink to the bottom. So I'm going to beat it to its punch and start this off at the bottom. For me, I'm just laying it out as best as I can. I already did my little dots and divots of where I need to cut. So I'm just going to go ahead and lightly trace along it so I don't lose the complete line for it. And then that way I should be able to just pop it in the mold and it fit perfectly. That's in theory. And I'm hoping theory works. The thing is with silicone, once it's cut, it's cut. It could be like a bad haircut and you end up with it. However, silicone is also very forgiving. If you're a millimeter or 2 millimeters too large or too small, silicone does have a nice little displacement where you do have some leeway where you can play with that. So I'm not super concerned if it is too small or too much because you can, once again, within a couple millimeters, you can have that room to play. So it breaks my heart to have to cut this mat up because it was a little bit of a Christmas gift, but I'm also very excited to play with this and show the results. And hopefully the results are amazing because this is the first time we're doing anything like this. All right, so we have our strip cut. I actually am going to be putting it into our older soap mold from them. And it's only because we've used these for so long that the sides of the liners are a little bit softer than the brand new silicone. So because this one's a little bit worked, it could be easier for this to pop out. So trick of the trade, especially in makeup artistry, it was silicone sticks to silicone. So silicone will stick to the silicone. It will have its own little adhesive to it. It'll stick to it beautifully. I will say using this, especially because it is a softer material of a little bit of a different catalyst used for the silicone, it's easier for things to stick to. So if you have pet hair, dander, dust anywhere, a lot of this stuff will pick it up. If you need a nice little easy removal for it, a quick spritz of 99 and a wipe from a cloth will remove everything for it. All right, so I'm just going to fuss around with it, try to get it into its crevice. It is spot on to the size that it needs. So there's not going to be too much wiggle room that it'll allow me to have, but I want it to be as snug as possible. The other thing too is I'm trying to let it fall naturally in, because if you have any little pull on it or anything, it will have an elasticity to it, and then it won't sit in there perfectly for what you need. So I'm just going ahead, gonna pack down the edges just a tiny bit because she is in there. And I will say, if it takes you a couple minutes or a lot of minutes to get it in there, be patient with it. The payoff will be beautiful no matter what. Like I said, silicone likes to move around, fuss around. So if you're not fiddling with it for at least a couple minutes to get it perfect, trust me, this is not a perfection run. I did have a good couple of times of me lifting it up, having to reapply it. Okay, so I angled it a tiny bit so you can see just what I'm talking about. It fits snugly at the sides, which is exactly what we want. So this will actually be our top of the soap. You got to think of negative coming to a positive, so the bottom of the soap will be along here, while the top is at the bottom. So we will be imprinted with this design, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the making portion now. All right, fast forwarding, if you can hear the bubbling in the back, I just have our next soap on the go, ready to go. So first up, we are doing one of our classic ones that we're bringing back, like I said, just for the spring line. It is our Cactus Blossom. So we have our three main colors. So it is our First Crush Mica, and then we also have the Jet Black and the Olive Green, all from Fizz Fairy, of course, because huge fans. So we don't add in our fragrances until we're about to pour, just because you never know what's going to happen. We always leave it till the last bit. So I have our Baja Cactus Blossom fragrance ready to go. And what I'll do is I'll add it from the lightest color to the easiest until we mix it into the black. So I did the green. I didn't have it on camera because it was right next to our microphone on our little water bottle. And the last thing I figure we need to hear is some sloshing around. So I'm moving on to our pink one next, getting it as evenly proportioned as I can, split between the ones. So I did add more into the green because the green does have most of the color. And then the pouring portion is actually the really fun part for us. So I'm not going to switch up the camera angle for this one just because the difficulty of it to switch with combining factors of soapification happening. But you will see from this angle just exactly what we do with it. And this is just my personal taste. So these buckets, I'm still learning how to grasp onto properly. That is just a me thing. It is all personal taste at this point. I'm using the spatula to break the fall because I am going for a certain kind of pour that I would like to personally achieve. If it happens, I don't know. A little more, why not? So I will say the one good thing about using Cactus Blossom is it actually does have a fairly good working time to go with it. So I'm not too stressed out yet. If it starts to thicken up, that's great. Now at this point, this is just for my own little fun. I will actually give it a mixed swirl. So I kind of want it to look like things are blooming into the center of it. If that showcases in the cut, I don't know. If it does, great, we'll find out soon. And finally, the rest of the green. So the green is setting up quite a bit right now. That is fine for what we want. I still have a little bit left, but I do want to get going into the next portion. And I want that lava lamp effect. Like I said, if it works, great. If not, we still get soap out of it. Okay, and finally, I'm just doing a quick little texture mapping on top. It's not going to be anything exquisite. It's going to be fairly... I was about to tip it over. It's going to be fairly basic. The cut is what's going to be the most important one. So this is our first one off the bat, Cactus Blossom of our spring floral scent. So I'm going to close this up, leave it off to the side, and we're going to jump into our next two ones now. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just working on the other side of you right now. So this is going to be our green. This is going to be our pink for our rose mint. Once I add this, I don't have the fastest working time in the world, but I do have enough working time to get what I need to get done. So I'm going to go ahead. If I block out the light, I'm so sorry. I'm just working opposite of the counter so you can actually see what's going on in here. So if my hand passes in a really awkward way, it'll pass. We're using our older Winston and Walter just in case I overspill. So we'll just do our best and go from there. So I'll start by mixing the green, throwing in the pink like a nice little blooming rose. So I will mix the fragrance in first off, kind of let it go. And then, like I said, you will see it when it starts to kick in. I have about 20 seconds before it does. Okay, I'm just going to get that one off to the side. This one's going to go in first. I'm just going to do a complete pour in. This one, So for this soap, I will say the last time we ever made it, we wanted to do something fun and different. And we put in our rose petals into it just because we were like, hey, that could go really, really well. Turns out it did not go well because the rose petals ended up turning black from the soapification process. And that's literally something that happens every now and then. So this time around, no rose petals are going inside it. We're going to leave it fairly blank. And I'm just going to go ahead and give it a very quick swirl. So I can already tell you that I did put more into the green mixture because I can feel the green starting to harden up and curdle. The pink one, there's not that much. So right now it actually looks really super creamy. But the green is definitely starting to curdle. So I'm going to go ahead, see if I can get a drop down from the top. Okay, as you can see, I tried to do a nice little fancy design in the top. I did not have enough green for it, but this one is good to go. It actually didn't curdle as much as I thought, so maybe they changed the blend of it. I was fully expecting to work super fast, but this one is it, so we will reveal how the cut goes with that one. Okay, and as a quick show, I do have some left over from it. It actually didn't even curdle at all, which I'm very shocked at. So there's something different with their rose garden scent that they have. I'm very ecstatic about it because it means I don't have to rush for the curdling. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our last one with the design in it. So pardon the fun sound exchange. I actually just lost the battery on my microphone. So from here on out, the sound's going to be a little bit more fun. If you hear background noise, it's just everything being made in the studio. So for our butterfly garden, I was so unsure as to what colors to put into it. So I started thinking, what colors don't we have and what makes me think most of a butterfly? And I honestly thought of like the really big butterflies in the Amazon that are like the beautiful blue colors. So I mixed a little bit of blue with our lavender coloring. And then I threw in an eggplant mica because I really love the idea of the iridescent glow for it. And then I have the white in here just to pour on top, just so we can paint it after to see if we can have some fun ideas. I'm not going to put a lot of fragrance in this one, just because there is a little bit of vanilla in this fragrance. So I don't want that to turn completely brown because I want these colors to be celebrated for what they are. So I'm going to move these out of the way. I'm going to start pouring with the white because I have to remember the white is on the top, therefore I'm pouring it on the bottom to flip it all around, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, we'll reveal it afterwards. And because this is a fragrance we never worked with before, it's always good to do a little test run, but of course, we just like to jump into everything. So, fun fact, I just did a massive fail. My whole little batter, when I tried to pour it in, ended up tipping over the whole side. So that was really, really fun. Lesson learned on pouring techniques. Okay, in theory, my idea is for it to go in and swoop at the bottom. I kind of want it to look like the white is growing into the blue vice versa growing into the white. And then I will be doing it again when we do the darker eggplant color. Okay, so far this fragrance is reacting beautifully. It's not really kicking in too fast at all. It is taking its time. We are using our older mold just in case anything was to happen. But so far, everything is going great so far. I'll fill it up to the top because, like I said, this is technically the bottom of the soap. And once again, I'm just going to go about halfway down. I don't want to go all the way down because I want it to look like each color is kind of going into its own way. So you can see on the top, the color I'm pulling through Hopefully it stays this beautiful when it dries. That's always, oh my God, why am I shaking? That is always the telltale, is it might look beautiful now, but it could look really, really unflattering to the desired effect later on. So I'm fingers crossing that this one is going to keep its color. I'm afraid it's going to turn brown, which here's hoping it doesn't. And I don't know why I'm doing a swirl because this is the bottom of the soap, but I guess it's a habit. It's staying. We don't have to make it super beautiful. And we're going to leave it at that. We're going to wrap up all of our soap, let it cure overnight, and we will see you in 24 hours for the cuts. And in good old-fashioned fashion, it is a little bit less than 24 hours, but once again, I was too excited to fully wait the full 24 hours to pop these babies out. And we will be going into cutting them very, very shortly. And this one you've seen before. It's our cactus blossom. Now, the one that I was really nervous / excited about was our butterfly garden one right here. So as you can see, I already unmolded it because, like I said, I'm way too excited when it comes to this stuff. And part of me was fueled by fear. Now, for this one, I was very nervous, so we will kind of zoom in on that one right now. When we were uncovering it, I was actually very afraid because of the dark color it had on top. But once again, that is because of the vanillin, and I did expect some color change, feared it as well. But at the end of the day, once I pulled it from the mold, so from this angle as well, you just saw the close-up of it. But if you see the side of it, you can actually see the colors held within. And you can see our silicone liner right on in there. Came out ready to go. So once again, this is technically the top of the mold. So we're going to go ahead, unravel this baby, and what you're going to see is what I'm going to see for the first time. So fingers crossed that this is exactly how we want it. So I'm just going to try to find, well, an edge that's already there and do a slow peel back just because it is still somewhat in the curing phase. And we want it to be as intact as possible. So looking at it, my first glimpse, I'm holding back a lot of excitement feelings right now because this is such a beautiful, nice little imprint design for it. Everything held up its shape on it. This is such a beautiful texture map. I'm really withholding in a lot of excitement right now, like I just said. Like, this is absolutely stunning. I'm going to zoom in for a closer look for you. And you can see the mica powder, some of it is already starting to just kind of poke through from the inside. I am so excited to cut this nice little loaf of soap. All of my insecurities and nervousness is out the window, even if it was the wrong color, which by the looks of it, everything looks great on the side. I would still be happy just from the top alone. So let's set up our soap cutter and get these babies unveiled. Okay, starting off with our cactus blossom, just because we've seen this soap before, we already know what it's going to look like and what it's going to entail. So this one's going to be a cut that we are fairly familiar with. It's the other two that I'm super excited. But once again, we just trim off the front and then we go from there. So we'll get to see when it actually gets to be a little bit more exciting rather than just the front. So jumping right into it, our first initial cut was good. It was a cute little soap. Our design this time around, like I said, I had a very specific idea for it. So I wanted it to be layered with the green, pink, black, pink, and green, kind of like a little opposite end going. So I am happy with how that's turning out. So we're going to go ahead and just complete the rest of the cuts and do a nice little drive-by of that after. Okay, so we have our first batch done and out of the way. So this is all of our cactus blossom soaps. We got about 22 bars and a nice little tester to go. As you can see with cutting, you can see the details of the air bubbles. These do shrink over time as the soap cures. So if yours does the same, do not be worried. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to be moving on to our next one, which will be our rose mint. We're not teasing you with this one yet. Okay, so I wasn't sold on the first initial cut of this nice little bar of soap. The smell is amazing, but I'm hoping that it does get really fun halfway through. Right now, the swirl is very basic. It almost doesn't even look like there is a swirl. So I'm hoping halfway through we do get one of those beauty swirls that we're hoping for. All right, and here we are with the final result. I will say this wasn't what I was going for. I'm not mad by it by any means. It does look very interesting. It almost looks like a lava lamp. But if you're going for the swirl, you're going for the swirl. Each time you cut soap, it's always a different factor going into it with different results. This one is just a very interesting one, and I'm okay with that, honestly. Okay, so I'm about 2 cuts into the soap. The design is starting to come out and show itself. So this is what I have been waiting for. These are the type of swirls that I have been hoping. Once again, this soap is actually, I think, becoming one of my new favorites just for the aesthetic wise alone. Okay, and there we have it for our butterfly garden soap. I am actually very ecstatic with how it turned out. Each one looks like its own little certain blob point. And I will say there was a certain design aspect that I was going for with it. So I'm really hoping that it's going to turn out. So bear with as I reset up, because the reason why I did the design hoping the way that it was going to turn out the way it was, and especially with the name Butterfly Garden, was so I could achieve this. Okay, here we go with a little bit of imagination, maybe some of my delusion, but I had wanted this soap to actually look like a design work of butterfly wings, so you can definitely see it in the bottom. The top part, sure, you need a little bit more imagination, but I was really, really hoping that this is how it was going to turn out. It did exactly that. I'm so ecstatic by this bar of soap even more now. Yeah, that's enough to be simply put there. We're going to go ahead and wrap up our video. So now they're all on display for everyone to see just what we did. So these are the floral ones that we are coming out with for our spring line. We're going to go ahead. We're going to let them cure for about 4 weeks, 3.5, give or take. And by the time we start our first spring show, they will be ready to go. And yeah, looking at them as a collective, I'm super happy with them. I'm going to keep going on looking over here no matter what, because I think that's my favorite blend. And I think going forward, I'm going to have to start staying away from greens because they're in almost every single one of our soaps. So I'm going to get really creative with the rest of them. And if you like what you see, feel free to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We're going to have a little bit more stuff on our Patreon for our subscribers over there. And until next time, thank you so much for the start of our spring line, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.